Hey guys, Jay here and welcome to another cosplay tutorial. Today I'm going to be working on Magneto's helmet from X-Men. So I'm finally getting into helmets now, and I will be making more in the future. So be on the lookout for all of those. And if you want to make this helmet for yourself, there'll be a pattern on my website which you can get to down in the description. So let's get started. I'll be starting with this helmet that I made using a template that I bought from Punished Props. I can't give you that specific template, but luckily it was altered enough that I can give you the one for this tutorial. I covered this base helmet in plastic wrap and tape to pull a pattern from. Then I traced and cut out each piece onto 10mm EVA craft foam. The template indicates where to cut an angle, and all the other edges should be cut at 90 degrees. The angles will be the area that make up the eye section of the helmet, and that section looks thinner, and the angles will give the illusion of it looking that way. After all the pieces are cut out, I use my heat gun on its highest setting and go over each piece on both sides. I start with the front because this seals the foam and closes it so it can take paint better. And I do this now rather than at the end because I'm already hitting it, so why not? Then I flip it over and do the same on the back side. This time I use my makeshift planisher to round off and form the curves it needs to be able to glue together. Which, speaking of, this is now where I glue all the pieces together. I'll be using contact cement for 99% of it. All of the pieces that I just formed are going to be glued this way, using 2 coats because the first coat likes to soak into the foam and doesn't have as strong of a hold. Once the glue dries enough to be tacky, I can put all the pieces together. Now normally you would use registration marks, but I always forget to add them to my pieces. The template has them, I just forgot to draw them on the foam. Once I finished, I tried it on and noticed this thing was huge. Like, it was so big that it fit over the original base helmet. So I ended up having to use the template that I bought from Punished Props and add paper to it in order to alter the shapes to what I need and make a smaller one. Luckily, you guys don't need to worry about this annoyance, as the template I have available is the final one after alterations. But for me, that meant I had to waste a ton of foam. So now that I have a helmet that's a better size, I can start on the trim details that go around the eyes. I just straight up put masking tape all around one of the eye sections and drew the design on with a Sharpie. Then I removed the tape from the helmet, being careful not to do any damage to the foam, then stuck it down to some paper because the design can lay flat, cut the design out, then traced and cut it out of more of the same 10mm foam that I used for the whole build. I also used the Dremel to round off the edges along the front face of the details. You can keep it with sharp corners or even sand really large bevels into this if you want, that's totally up to you. Rounding it off was good enough for me. To glue it down to the helmet, I needed to know exactly where it was going to be placed, so I used thin strips of tape to hold it in place on the helmet and used the silver Sharpie to outline where it will go, so I know exactly where I need to put the glue. Again, I used contact cement since it's the best option here. Just so you know, super glue would also be fine for any of this detail work. Once the glue is tacky, I carefully attached the trim details to the helmet. For the trim that goes down the front and around the base, I used 4mm square foam dowels that I already had laying around. If you don't have these, you can just use 5mm foam and cut it into strips. But I just glued these flush with the edges with contact cement. Moving on to the crest on the forehead, I made the templates and then cut them out of more 10mm foam. When you cut these out, you'll want to do every edge on an angle. For the center of the shield shape thing, you'll want to do less than 45 degrees, which when coupled with the curved line the center has, will make it curve in all directions like it should. Then on the outer edges, I'd go for a really large angle. This makes it look as thin as possible, while still being thick enough to be sturdy. Do roughly 45-degree cuts on all of the edges of the 2 pieces that stick out of the shield. This will make them look like bevels, as well as the outer edges, just like the shield shape, will help them look thinner while also being thick enough to be sturdy. Then, using the Dremel, I sanded off the bottom half of the back of the shield piece to be about half of its thickness, so that the side pieces could be glued on and it wouldn't be too thick to glue to the helmet. Then I glued the entire piece down onto the forehead with contact cement for the shield and super glue to hold the side pieces onto the helmet. The last bit of detail I need to add is these little pieces that go in the bottom corners on the front. These are more 4mm square foam dowels with angles cut into them to make them look the way you see here, and they're just super glued in place. Before I paint it, I need to hide the seams better. I used wood filler in the seams and then sanded it down. I cover the whole helmet in a few coats of Plastidip, and follow that up by masking the details off and covering it in red spray paint. Then I very carefully hand paint the details with purple. You should probably mask the red off, but for the eye details, I just didn't. I did, however, mask it off when I painted the thinner trim. Then after that all dried, I hit it with a gloss clear coat to finish it off. Alright, so that's how to make Magneto's helmet from X-Men. So I picked this specific one because I actually talked to my friend Atlas, who's been on this channel multiple times, and he said this was the most common. Now, the reason that I didn't know that is because I'm not huge into comics. This isn't for me. This is actually for my stepdad, who really loves comics and grew up with them. And he has like a Thor hammer and the Captain America shield. I'm pretty sure he's got like Hulk hands somewhere, things like that. So I thought I would just add to his collection and make him a helmet. Also, this isn't stated or shown anywhere in the tutorial, but I will have to put some type of foam in the helmet here because it is big and moves around. I'll just show you real quick. So as you can see, it kind of doesn't stay where it's supposed to. So I have to fix that by putting like buffers in there of foam of some kind, and I have to get the foam first. I just don't have it. But you just do that according to your head where it would work best, or whatever. So I have to figure that out from him with his hair and to figure out exactly how it fits on him and where I need to put them. So you're gonna need to do that for yourself, but I'm thinking one right here on the back that's like a big circle or something that's flat kind of on the back, that foam that you'd put like in your cushions or whatever, and then that would stop it from sliding forward, which would be good. But I'm not 100%, so we're gonna test a few things out first. You're gonna want to do that with every helmet you make, unless you make it form-fitting. You're gonna want to do that, so that's just pretty normal. But anyway, that's gonna be it for this tutorial. If you liked it, go ahead and hit that thumbs up, subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys later.